Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And I want to get right into this story coming straight out of St. Louis about the city of St. Louis is suing to strike down a Missouri law placing a board in charge of overseeing the city's police department. So a police board that was assigned by Governor Mike Kehoe has placed direct control of the St. Louis Police Department. The St. Louis City Police Department is under the control of the Missouri state government. And what is the controversy behind that? And so, in today's political climate and time, everyone is concerned about Trump and his mega mania movement. Everybody is worried about what's coming out of Washington, D.C., the Ukraine-Russia war, immigration, Israel-Iran war, the war in Gaza, etc. And people are overlooking their city and state ordinances, laws, etc. Your local politics are just as important as your national politics. Think about it. When you walk out of your door of your house, your city and state laws can affect you and your freedoms and movements on a daily basis, way more than your federal laws, be it traffic tickets or violations of city ordinances. Most people get in trouble. It is from violating a city or a state law. Very rarely do people violate a federal law. So I'm saying all that in reiteration to say that we need to pay more attention to what's going on in our cities and our states before concerning yourself with the nation's capital. The state of Missouri has already taken over the Kansas City Police Department several years ago. And now the state of Missouri, Governor Mike Kehoe, is taking over the St. Louis City's police department. And there's been a lot of controversy and arguments with Mayor Kara Spencer and Governor Mike Kehoe, and even this police board that he has put together that Mayor Kara Spencer is a member of. So what is the background of this state takeover? The city of St. Louis is suing to strike down a Missouri law that placed a board in charge of overseeing the city's police department. Governor Mike Kehoe signed the measure in the law, and it took direct control of the police department away from the mayor's office, shifting it to a board that includes Mayor Kara Spencer alongside a majority of governor-approved members. So the state of Missouri is taking over the St. Louis City Police Department. The governor put a police board together that he's in charge of, that he's appointing everybody. And I guess he did Mayor Kara Spencer a favor by allowing her to be a member of the board. But if they had to have a vote, all of the appointees are appointed by Governor Mike Kehoe. Look at this political move here in your own state of Missouri. So the lawsuit, Mayor Kara Spencer announced on April 9th, 2026, that she directed city lawyers to file a lawsuit. The lawsuit alleges that the state law violates Missouri's constitutional prohibition on unfunded mandates, because it requires the city to spend a set percentage of its general revenue on policing every year while providing no additional money from the state. So the state wants to take over the St. Louis City Police Department. Follow me. But they don't want to put any additional funds. The state of Missouri doesn't want to put any additional funds into overseeing and managing the St. Louis City Police. They want all of the funding to come from St. Louis City. But St. Louis City and the mayor won't have any control over it. So there's a budget issue and there's a political chess game that's going on where Governor Mike Kehoe wants to run and be in control of the Kansas City Police Department, the St. Louis City Police Department, your two largest cities in the state of Missouri. But in St. Louis, he doesn't want to put any additional funding in there. And Mayor Kara Spencer is saying that makes no sense and it's illegal. So the budget dispute is at the heart of it. The police board certified a budget of $250 million, but when additional excluded costs are factored in, the actual expense to the city would reach $274 million. So almost $25 million more, an amount the city says it cannot cover without mass layoffs and severe cut to essential services like refuse collection, which would be trash collection, street repair, and water services. Police commissioners have argued the city is legally required to provide as much as $330 million when certain reserve and settlement funds are included in the general revenue calculation, a position Mayor Spencer called legally indefensible. So we got three figures here. $250 million initially, then it's $274 million that Mayor Spencer is saying we need those additional funds from the state. Remember, when federal grants and federal funds are coming from Washington, D.C., from our national government, they allocate the majority of money to your state, and then the rest of the money goes to your individual cities and municipalities. So the larger bowl of funds goes to your state, and then it gets trickled down to your cities. St. Louis and Kansas City are two of your major cities in the state of Missouri. So look at the chess game. Look at how this accounting and who's taking responsibility for what departments and how this money should be spent. I believe that part of this whole machination of positioning itself on the state government, Governor Mike Kehoe, wanting to be in charge of the Kansas City Police Department and the St. Louis City Police Department, has something to do with the pensions and the police pension funds. You got to remember the teachers' pension funds, the fire department pension funds, the police department pension funds. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars that you can be in control of. And that is probably one of the measure sticks. But what we're being displaced and what we're missing, this is all about public safety. And is our public safety at risk? Police staffing is understaffed, underappreciated, and they are underpaid. So the city of St. Louis core argument, the suit argues the city is being forced to pay for a police department that it doesn't control. So what's at stake? The city warns that without court intervention, this is the city of St. Louis, Mayor Kara Spencer says the city warns that without court intervention, it would be forced to implement mass layoffs of city employees and make devastating cuts to essential services in order to meet the police board's demands. So the mayor of St. Louis is barking loud and biting hard on the tactics that Governor Mike Kehoe in his chess play to take over the St. Louis City Police Department. So Mayor Kara Spencer announced on Thursday that she directed her city lawyers to sue over the measure, which Governor Mike Kehoe signed into law last year. It took the state of Missouri took direct control of the police department away from the mayor's office and shifted it to a board that includes Mayor Spencer and a majority of governor appointees. The provision of the state takeover required the city to spend a certain percentage of its general revenue on policing every year, but provides no additional revenue from the state. The lawsuit alleges that requirement violates the constitutional prohibition on unfunded mandates. Mayor Kara Spencer said, "I want to be clear, this is not a measure that we take lightly. I am the only member of the police board who also has a fiduciary duty to the city and its entire city workforce. Our police department plays a very critical role in public safety, but so do our other departments. I have to protect the jobs of these folks too." So the suit asked a judge to find the state takeover of the department unconstitutional for that reason. If the judge assigned to the case is not willing to go as far as throwing out the entire legislation governing the state takeover, the lawsuit asked for a ruling that the department's estimated budget far exceeds the funding level required by state law. The city's proposed budget for the police department in the fiscal year that begins in July and that's coming up. This is May already. Is expected to be around $220 million. And this is where these figures get confused, which represents an increase of about 4% compared to the current budget. That includes 7% raises negotiated with the St. Louis Police Officers Association, but is below the department's certified expenses of $250 million. Chris Saraceno, president of the Board of Police Commissioners, said the board is committed to the $250 million figure. We have fulfilled our responsibilities under Missouri state law by identifying the resources necessary to operate a professional, effective, and accountable police department, he said. Our proposal reflects the real operational needs of this department, including staffing, facilities, and infrastructure required to support both our officers and the communities we serve. Chief Robert Tracy, Police Chief Robert Tracy in St. Louis, called the $250 million amount, he said, where we're going to be, he said that's a good amount, where we're going to be able to get the raises and do the things we need to do to lift the city up and move to the future. But he did not directly say whether he believed he could run the department with only $220 million. Joe Steiger, executive director of the St. Louis Police Officers Association, said he was glad the raises were part of the budget. He called it unfortunate that the two sides had not been able to reach an agreement on required funding levels. Remember, that's Governor Mike Kehoe and that's St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer. So, Mayor Kara Spencer repeated several times that she believed police were a critical part of public safety and that the lawsuit was about protecting the financial health of the city of St. Louis overall. She said, I'm sure that, Joe Steiger said, I'm sure that she cares about the police department in general, but it certainly hasn't seemed that way, Steiger said. I don't know if our officers feel that support from her. Chris Grayville, the attorney for the police board, said its members had always had the potential for litigation over the budget requirements in the back of their minds. But he said the scope of the lawsuit took them by surprise. We thought we were talking about the narrow issue of the budget, he said. This lawsuit is about everything. The majority of the lawsuit is challenging the state control. And so also the move comes roughly a year after Board of Alderman President Megan Green filed a lawsuit over the state takeover law. A federal case was dismissed, while a state case is slated to be heard in May. Green said in a statement that having multiple bites at the apple in the legal fight over local control was good for the city. From the beginning, challenging the state's takeover of our police department wasn't just about protecting local decision-making and residents' rights, she said. It's also about challenging an unfunded mandate that takes money away from crime prevention programs, infrastructure repair, and the many essential services residents rely on. So in conclusion, language in the state control bill says the mayor and other city officials shall not in any manner impede, obstruct, hinder, or interfere with the police board of any of its members or staff. It's wording that seems to block any lawsuit challenging the board or its actions.